So we've done about 20 minutes, and we haven't really mentioned morality or what the purpose of your original video was and your counter video. Now I watched them both again this morning because I really wanted to have them fresh in my mind, and I kind of struggled with how exactly I was going to frame this, because I thought, well, maybe if I just go off your video, that would be the right way because you did the counter video. Then I thought maybe I need to bounce back and forth between a few things. So I'm going to bounce around. I have a feeling that I've got two people of intellect that can follow me here. So one of the things that you talked about, so let's shift this into morality, God, and murder. So you talk about scientific facts versus moral facts. And I think people can probably figure out what that means, but can you just explain that concept again?
Well, I think everyone can understand, and I'm not saying this in a condescending way, that if you don't agree with me, you're not on my level of understanding, but I think it's axiomatic that you can't learn morality from nature. Nature, especially if you believe in the survival of the fittest, if that's your guideline, and that was a guideline for people like Hitler, that he actually did say that, but even dropping any reference to a given mass murderer, science doesn't tell me to be honorable. Science doesn't tell me to do anything against my self-interest. The selfish gene, written by an atheist, that we're composed of selfish genes. You need a mind, and you need, I believe, an outside source to say this is what is right, this is what is wrong, because science doesn't tell you that. That's all. I don't even think that's debatable. How do I know not to steal because of atoms or biology? I don't think you do.
Well, your moral conscience tells you that. And where did that come from? Okay, so let's pull back for a second. So your video opened up, is murder wrong? Okay, what is murder? Let's define some terms here to get us some clarification. Murder is the wrongful killing of one human by another. So it's like asking, is wrong wrong? Yes, it's right there in the word. So maybe we mean, is killing wrong?
No, we meant is murder. I meant is murder wrong.
Well, by definition, it's wrong. It's
right.
It's
yes,
like
by definition.
Right.
But that's not the issue. My video is not is why is murder wrong, not whether it is wrong.
Yeah.
Why is it wrong?
Yeah. Why is it wrong? Because we've defined it that way.
Okay, but so that's my argument.
Yes, but
my argument is that's the whole point. If we've defined it that way, then we are God, and we could say murder blacks, murder Jews, murder gays, right?
No, no, because of, okay, so two things. One, first of all, if you say that, well, it's God that told us that it's wrong.
Yeah.
All right, so first of all, did God have reasons for why murder is wrong, or is he just randomly declaring this and that wrong or right? My guess is you'd say he had reasons. And so the question is, what are those reasons, and why not skip the divine middleman and just base our moral reasoning on those reasons that we too can come up with?
Moral reasoning, because I wish it worked. Because my bottom line is, I just want people to do good.
Yes.
If atheists, okay. I'm much closer to a good atheist than a bad religious person. Mm-hmm. So my bottom line is goodness. But I realized at a very young age that reason doesn't take me to goodness. Reason is a tool. Reason is a hammer. Hammers build hospitals, and hammers build torture chambers.
Yes.
So reason is great, but it doesn't give you the goal. Reason gives you the means.
Okay, but to pull back, how do you know that murder is wrong from the divine command theory, your perspective? I mean, you said you don't talk to God, you're not...
Right, I believe in revelation. I do believe the Ten Commandments were revealed. Okay,
so again, as you know, Plato refuted this argument 2,500 years ago. If God is just declaring things randomly, then if he didn't say murder was wrong, would that make it okay?
Well, to be consistent, it would be, but he didn't do that, so it's irrelevant. It's like there's an old Yiddish saying: "If my grandmother had balls, she'd be my grandfather."
Yes. Right.
Okay, so this is not an if that matters. It turns out that moral reasoning and what God is dictating seem to coincide very often. But that's not the issue. Remember, my issue is beyond what we're speaking about. There is no, forgetting murder for a moment, there is no good and evil if there is no God. There are only opinions about good and evil, just like beauty. Do you think there's an objective beauty?
I think there's a basis to it, yes.
What does that mean?
There's an evolved propensity to prefer some characteristics in people and landscapes.
All right, but it doesn't make something beautiful, objectively speaking.
Okay, but what do you mean by objective?
Objective, that it has just this, objectively, this cup, this glass exists.
So it's not just
it's not
your
my
opinion
opinion.
and my opinion. That's
correct.
Right. Okay, so I think moral values actually have a factual basis that are like the glass. A little more complicated, but based on our human nature to, so you mentioned the selfish gene. We do have our inner demons that cause us to want to be selfish and greedy and avarice and so forth. But we also have our better angels. That is, it pays to be cooperative, nice, altruistic, and caring and loving for other human beings, particularly those in your tribe. And it benefits your selfish genes to be nice to other people. Now, immediately in your immediate family, extended family, and your community, and studies show this does pay off. Now, unfortunately, we're very tribal to other people who may be threatening our empathetic notions about our fellow beings. But that's an evolved characteristic. We can see it in primates, in children, and so on. There's a deep sense from the moment you're born of there's a right and a wrong. And that comes from this evolved propensity to survive in a social community. You can't survive by murdering, cheating, lying, and so forth. And so that's where it comes from. And I consider that to be transcendent of you and me. It's not my opinion, it's not your opinion. It belongs to the species. We're born that way. Lions don't have that. Chimps don't quite have that like we have it, and so on. There's a scale of this. So one of my favorite videos from Frans de Waal is the two little capuchin monkeys that are each taught to swap a pebble for a grape or a cucumber slice. So the pebbles are like money. So so you see this video where the experimenter gives the one a pebble, he gives it back, and he gets a cucumber slice, he eats it, he's happy. Then the other one does the same thing, and he gets a grape. Now, they like grapes better than cucumbers, because who doesn't? And so the other one, the first one, sees that. He goes, oh boy, I'm going to get a grape. And he runs and gets his pebble, and he puts the pebble, and the experimenter gives a cucumber slice, and he's like, and you see him, and he throws it at the experimenter. He's pounding on the cage. He's rattling the cage wall. He is pissed because that guy got something I didn't get. That was not right. I did the same amount of work that he did, and he got something. So you can see that sense. They don't have language. They can't call it anything, but they have a sense of wrong. I was wrong. That was not
okay,
fair.
so let me respond.
Yeah.
That experiment does not show what you just said. That experiment shows that he's pissed on his behalf. You find me one monkey on the face of the earth that rattles the cage because the other guy was wronged, then I will take that argument seriously.
Actually,
this is completely selfish based. Number two, you mentioned children. So you have raised...
Not okay. Yes, it is selfish based, but it's about what's right and wrong. What's fair.
For me. No.
Right.
So it's not about right and wrong. It's about me. I feel gypped. That doesn't count.
But they
don't rattle cages on behalf of other monkeys.
No, it's a sense of fairness. Like, I want what's right for me.
Yes, for me.
And then, okay,
but I don't want what's right for you, fair for you.
So what does it take for us to scale up for me to care about what's right for me, to care about what's right for you?
It takes transcendent morality. It doesn't take selfish genes. Take children. You mentioned children.
Yes.
The idea that we could learn that children are born with a strong moral sense. I mean, you've read Lord of the Flies. I think that's far more accurate. Let me just ask you a question. You raised a child, right? And so I just want to ask you, how many times do you feel, roughly, you told her, say thank you? 10,000?
No, not that many times.
No?
I think you just have to nudge him a little bit.
Nudge him a little bit.
Yeah,
oh, please.
But the
All
research,
right.
on child development shows that
I told my sons, at each of them, at least 10,000 times in their life, say thank you. If they were inherently good, they would, first of all, never have to be told the first time.
Dennis, not
and certainly not many other times.
Not black and white. They're all good or they're all evil. No.
But don't say we can learn that we have this great built-in sense.
We
then
do.
why did the world stink?
Okay, read Paul
The world
Bloom's
is
book.
filled. Why is slavery universal? Rape universal? Murder universal.
Well, we know
goodness is rarer than all of these terrible things.
But it's been changing, and there's a reason for that, and the reason is reason. Ever since the Enlightenment, we've been changing the conditions of society, politics, economics, and social systems to emphasize the better angels and squash, sort of attenuate the inner demons. And we know how to do this. It's sort of like a behavioral game matrix. Like, okay, we're going to increase.
So if we had this debate 200 years ago, right before the Enlightenment, you would have agreed with me?
I probably would have been religious, and we probably would have been on the same page on pro-slavery and so forth.
Well, I do think this is an interesting point, because when I had you on just a couple months ago, and you were arguing for morality through a Judeo-Christian value, a lot of people were saying to me, he's actually just arguing for Enlightenment values, which I thought was...
I think so. I think that's the case.
No.
I think your beliefs have been influenced by the Enlightenment very much.
I can't answer you. I having been raised in my specific case, which is it's truly irrelevant to the point, but in my specific case, I assure you, I was raised in an Orthodox Jewish milieu. Half the day Hebrew studies in Hebrew of the Bible and the Talmud and so on, and half the day secular studies. If I would have said to one of my rabbis from Eastern Europe, the French Enlightenment, he would have looked around and, was that the name of a new I don't know, well, not rock group. He didn't follow rock groups.
Right.
But anyway, he would have thought maybe it was a food, French Enlightenment.
Right. But that might have showed the limitations of his thinking, though.
Yes, I agree with you, but that's not the point. The point is, what influenced me more? I don't know. I believe that God wanting to me good, God demands that I be good, is the single most animating thing in my life. And I want it to be the most animating thing in everybody's life. I don't trust people who listen to their inner voice. A handful of occasions it will work. For the vast majority of people, the inner voice will be, if a young man can get away with grabbing a woman, the inner voice will be dwarfed by his testosterone.
So, all right, so it's a good segue to two things. So first, I just want to jump back to the monkey example here for a second. Because do you think it's possible that if they kept doing that experiment over time, the monkey who was seeing his friend be wronged would eventually start protesting on behalf of the monkey? Because I think that would strengthen that argument. I don't know that they...
Okay, so Franz de Waal's research shows that you can nudge it in that direction. Not very far. So he does research with elephants and other mammals, and you can get them to. You can see that they start to care for the other individual if they're being harmed, like they're getting electric shocks. If they do something that sacrifices themselves to stop the electric shock.
Right, but you use the grape and the cucumber. The day a monkey starts rattling the cage because his friend got a cucumber, not a grape, I will be impressed.
Yes, okay. Well, so, and then also read Paul Bloom's book, Just Babies. So they show that, like these little things with the infants, they can't speak yet, okay? So, but they're doing these little puppet things, and they have a puppet show where the one puppet is trying to push this ball up a ramp, and another puppet comes in and pushes him back down, and he fails, or the other puppet comes up and helps him, right? So then they show the babies, they get to pick which puppet they like the most, and they always like the one that helped.
Right.
And so Bloom's got these great videos where you can see a lot of times these little babies will reach out and slap the bad puppet. It's like that puppet was bad. So this is at like 6 months, a year old, year and a half. They already have a sense of that's right and that's wrong. Helping is good, harming is not good. Okay. Now, so we don't need to go from there to say, well, then how do you explain evil? It's in there. We have inner demons. We also have better
angels.
And
I think that's true. I think that there are good sides.
Now, you might say, well,
God
put it in there, but to get back to my earlier point, how do you know? So you said Revelation, but you mean the Bible, the Old Testament. Okay, so but other religious leaders, like the leader of ISIS, Baghdadi. So he says, I get revelation from God. I know what's right and wrong.
Right. So I have an answer to that.
Yeah.
I have an answer, and I'm curious to hear your answer, because I've heard this a lot, and it's a plausible argument. How do you know which God, for example? Okay, if I came along and I developed a brown bubbly drink and said this is Coca-Cola. And you would say, well, there really is a real Coca-Cola. You are making up something new, well beyond, chronologically, the original Coca-Cola. It's your recipe. It doesn't taste like it. It doesn't look like it. and you don't have the same ingredients, but you're calling it Coca-Cola. God was introduced to humanity by the Old Testament. That everybody acknowledges. All right? That's the God I'm talking about. If there are variations on that theme, that's their business. There is a Coca-Cola. And I'm talking about Coca-Cola. I'm talking about the God given to humanity through the Old Testament. That God gave the Ten Commandments, in my view, and that made murder absolutely wrong, not dependent upon personal or societal opinion.
So what about right before that happened?
Right before that happened, there were people who thought... 2 days before, there were a lot of people who thought murder was wrong. Of course that's true. But it wasn't objectively wrong, it was subjectively wrong, and there's a big difference. I am now telling you, God says, that that killing wrongly is absolutely wrong. There is an objective morality here.
Are you talking, which commandment are you talking about here?
The 6th.
So this is thou shalt not kill.
No, murder. The Hebrew and the English are murder, not kill.
Okay, so but again, back to my original point. By definition, it's wrong.
I know that.
We're really talking about killing.
But
wrongful killing.
Right, wrongful killing.
But some killing is okay.
Of course it is. Yes, of course that's true.
Right.
Some sex is okay, some sex is rape.
Right.
That's true about every action.